Hello everyone, this is Melina Harrison, and I'm so excited today to talk about our Builder worksheets because I feel like these are such an instrumental key to planning your success. I've heard a lot of people create goals in this business where they want to reach a certain range. And it's funny because when I ask them, how is it going? Generally they'll tell me everything that, someone else isn't doing or things that are going wrong. And what I really think that these builder worksheets do is they help you focus on what needs to be done so that you can create a little bit better of a plan to ensure your success. I really believe that you need to know your business in order to grow your business. So when you know exactly where you're at and exactly what needs to be done, then it's so much easier to achieve your goal to hit silver. Now, a lot of times we're trying to create a plan to hit silver, and this is what I think is going to really, really help you break it down step by step, because a goal without a plan is just a wish. And so I really am a fan of planning. Now, as a mother of I just had a baby, 4 new children, it's been a little bit crazy. And as I've been building my doTERRA business for the past 4 years, there's been times where I'm trying to balance between being a wife, being a mother, being a friend, my church and community responsibilities, and on top of that, doing things for the business, different trainings, calls, webinars, and there's been times where the day just passes way too fast, and it comes to around 5 or 6 o'clock, and I get that dreaded question where I've got hungry mouths saying, "What's for dinner?" And there's been times where I've done this completely wrong, and it's time for dinner, people are hungry, and I'll go and look in my fridge, and I see not only have I not made a plan for dinner, but I haven't gone to the grocery store in quite a while, so I don't really have much to work with. And so I often find myself feeling like the lady in the slide, right? Like, I just made dinner last night, I have to do it again? And I know many of you mothers and fathers out there can relate to this, where you end up having to go out to eat, or it's just another pizza night. I think that sadly my children have probably had cereal a couple times in the past 4 years for dinner. And what I decided to do is just create a better plan. And so I started planning my weekly menus, and I would make a grocery list out and would do my grocery shopping now on Monday morning, so that I've got everything that I need for the entire week, instead of having to run to the store 3 or 4 times that week to get small items that I missed because I didn't accurately plan. I also started planning the prep work, and my husband is really great about chopping things or shredding cheese or whatever. I also have an assistant that helps a little bit when I've got long days, that will sometimes I can just come down into the kitchen and I've got all the vegetables chopped and different things prepared so that I can kind of throw it all together and put it in the oven, or whatever I need to do. A lot of the prep work is done because that's very time consuming. And for those of you that have older children, you can also include them in that. I started having my kids help me a little bit more in the kitchen. And help is kind of a term I use loosely. It's more that I've had a couple of circumstances where, one of my children would come and ask me, "Hey, Mom, do you have time for me now, or are you busy?" And the first time I heard those words, I thought, "Oh my gosh, of course I have time for you. I'm your mom." But I have been so unorganized at times where it takes me 10 times longer to do things, or I haven't been very efficient with my time, or I was doing, things in the morning that I should have been doing while my kids were, where at least my oldest was in school and my second kid was in kindergarten, so that, or during nap time even, so that when they are home, I'm more available for them. So I started to reorganize my life a little bit and create these plans for my week and block out different times to do things so that I'm way more efficient and way more effective with my time. And now I can serve dinner every night accordingly, and it doesn't have to be fast food. And I feel like this is exactly what we're creating with our Builder worksheets, is just a better plan to follow so that we're not running around, crazy and doing things a lot harder than they need to be done. So obviously there's a lot of things that we can do that are effective in building our business, But the main thing that we really need to look at to grow is how many events we're holding. How often is that doTERRA story being shared? And we want to do that by looking at our 3 different legs and kind of understand how much volume is coming in. So we want to look at our scheduled LRP. And you'll do this by going to your back office. Under the Team tab, you want to look at your detailed genealogy. And once you're in your detailed genealogy, you'll have a column section that you can click on, and you can select next LRP date and next LRP PV. So then when you're looking at your detailed genealogy, it will show both of those. So for example, here on the screen, you'll see that this person has their next LRP date scheduled for November 25th, and it's for 192 PV. So that's a very simple way that you can look through your organization or look through your legs and determine how much PV is still coming in. And you want to take that volume and list it for each of your legs, okay, as you can see here. Then you want to subtract that amount from 3,000. Since obviously to hit silver, you need 3 legs of elite, which is 3,000. You want to determine where you're going to be and how much volume you still need to create. From that, you can determine how many events you need to do. Now, what we found is that the average event generally is around 500 PV. So you'll want to divide that number by 5 and then round it up to the nearest whole number. So for example, you can see here, leg number 1 still needs 800 PV to come in. And so that would be 2 classes. Because if we only did 1 class and it was 500, we'd still be 300 short. So we would need 2 classes. Leg number 2 here needs 550. We're still going to do 2 classes just to ensure that we have enough volume. And then leg number 3 needs 175 in volume, so we're going to hold 1 class for that leg. And I really love how this breaks it down in a very simple manner, because there's so many people that will feel like they're working hard and they're doing a lot of events. But what I find sometimes when I dig a little bit deeper is they're doing events with their strong leg. They're doing events with the person that is very motivated and is asking for help. And a lot of it is just a reactive process. And while you should always continue to do events and work with your strongest leg, obviously, you still need to look at what you're missing and maybe look at your weaker areas or look at your other legs. It's not just about doing a lot of events. You have to make sure that you're planning accordingly the number of events that you need in each one of your legs. Once you've determined the number of events you want to do, then you want to list the top 3 builders or sharers that you're going to be working with in that leg, just so that you can work with them appropriately to help them set up their events. And now whether it's that they're actually the one that's hosting the events or whether they are bringing people to an event, you want to make sure to help them with the 5 simple steps that are listed in the Reinventing Healthcare magazine in having successful events. Because what I found is a lot of times I'll go and do a presentation for someone that is super excited. Maybe they even got a lot of people to their event. But if they didn't follow the proper steps, and those people have never been sampled to, they haven't heard experiences, and their very, very first contact with doTERRA really comes with the event that we're doing, then a lot of times the success is very limited there. So in identifying who you specifically need to work with to help ensure that these events are successful, you will be a lot better off come the end of the month, right? And also, when you've got someone willing to host the class, you want them to have a positive experience. And so if they don't know how to prepare that correctly and their class just kind of bombs, then it's a lot harder to get them to do more events. So we want to make sure that we're definitely working with them, appropriately so that they have effective events. Then we want to look at scheduling the number of classes that we determined we needed for each leg. And we want to make sure that they're scheduled by the 3rd Friday of each month. Now, the reason why this is so important is because you're going to need time to follow up on your classes. If you hold a class on the 30th or the 31st, and those people maybe want to take a couple of days to decide which kit is best for them, then that's going to put you over to the next month. Or if they need to go home and talk to their spouse about it, which obviously, especially if they're going to be purchasing one of those larger kits, that's a big investment. So they need to discuss it and think about it a little bit, and that's okay. If you wait till the last day for your event, then you have this sense of like an emergency, and it's really, really urgent that they need to enroll that night or by the next day. And this doesn't feel good to you as a presenter, or especially to them. Nobody wants to feel that sense of urgency. And so you want to create a sense of value where definitely they want to get signed up, within a few days, but you don't want them to feel like it's an emergency, they have to turn in their stuff. Then it just creates a lot of unneeded stress. So also, one thing to consider is sometimes your classes might not go as well as planned. Maybe, even a host gets sick, or you don't realize that you scheduled the event the same day as another big event in the community, and it flops, or people don't end up attending. So you want to be able to have a week to kind of adjust and maybe put together a last-minute class or a couple different one-on-ones, especially if someone wasn't able to attend one of the events that you had earlier that month and they're still interested. So this just really gives you time to work with a little bit that last week of the month. Then you also want to set incentives for each leg, those builders that you're working with. And this is really important because as you're reaching for silver, silver is going to put you in the bonus pool. It will give you an account manager. It puts you into the leadership ranks. And there's recognition for that. There's more money for that. And generally, you're pretty committed to doing that. But when you're working with elite, sometimes they're not as committed. And so as a silver, I think it's one of the hardest ranks where you're committed and you're pushing, and it feels like the whole thing is really, up to you, and your elites are kind of along for the ride, and they show up sometimes and sometimes they don't, and it's just kind of, like I said, more reactive and a little bit more out of convenience. So you want to include some incentives to help get them fully on board, where they're really committed to doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're going to really follow up with their contacts and make sure that those events are successful. And these incentives can be just about anything. First of all, we've got the share program from doTERRA that allows them 15% in fast starts and 15% in free product in their first 60 days. So this might be something you want to consider making sure they understand if it applies to them. Some people will offer free diffusers when people get a certain amount of people to a class. You can also do a lot of free things, like offer, to exchange free babysitting. If they host a class, then you'll babysit for them and their spouse to go on a date night. Or you'll, take over a couple meals. You're going to be making dinner for your family anyways, now maybe with menu planning. So you can make extra and take some over for them. Or you can give them a free aroma touch technique session. There's a lot of different things that you can do to be creative, and you want to look at those individual people to see maybe what interests them. If it's product that they're interested in, and you might not yet have the resources to give away a ton of free stuff, then raffles are a really great way that you can incentivize a lot of people for one price. So for example, they might get a raffle ticket for every enrollment they get that month, or for every person that they bring to an event, they get a raffle ticket. And this just adds that extra little bit of motivation for people to create that momentum in your team. Now, I also want to remind you that even though it feels like it's mainly you're pushing for silver, you do have 3 people at least that are looking at elite, and you can partner with them and have them fill out their elite builder worksheet, because you want them to understand that you're here to help them reach their goal. And right now their goal might be elite, but they want to obviously grow beyond that sometimes, and so you can help them fill out their own worksheets so that they understand it as their plan as well, and something that they're a part of. And when we look at the great leaders in this business, it's so easy to say, oh man, they got lucky, they got some really good builders. And it doesn't generally happen like that. Good luck is the result of good planning. And that's what I feel like these builder worksheets really help us do, so that we can spend our time the most efficient and effective way in having these events and sharing the doTERRA message, and really getting more people on our team and the right amount of volume needed to hit these goals. So hopefully you'll take the time to fill out these worksheets with your builders, And you'll see the big difference that it makes in your team when you can plan accordingly and be prepared, long before the end of the month, and you've got exactly what you need to do.